Trajan was the last Roman emperor to substantially add to the empire. Under his rule, in 117, the Roman Empire reached 2 million square miles. From this point, Rome concentrated on shoring up its empire. The days of conquest were over. It was Emperor Hadrian who formalized this policy.
Hadrian gets a sense of unease that he has pushed the empire out to its limits, and he did two things. He pulled the army back from its overextension, and then he built a series of beautifully engineered fortifications.
The most famous of these barriers is Hadrian's Wall in northern Britain, where remains of the 73-mile-long chain of forts still stand nearly 2,000 years later. But walls proved only partially successful against a threat tormenting the Roman Empire. The Romans have a single word for people without a written language: barbarians. German tribes attacking Rome's borders in 166 marked a bleak milestone. For the first time since Hannibal's invasion, the Roman Empire was on the defensive. For the next century, waves of migrating peoples followed the Germans into Roman territory. Goths, Franks, Persians, Parthians, Visigoths, and others. The edges of the empire crumbled until there was no more Roman Empire to penetrate. By the 3rd century, barbarians were only one of the empire's mounting crises. It was a time when an emperor was far more likely to be assassinated than die of old age, and rulers frequently left no clear successor to their throne. Once again, the affections of the individual legions became central to political power.
There came a point where the loyalty of the army became suspect, particularly in the 3rd century AD, when the empire, faced by barbarian incursions on the frontiers, faced by plague, by rampant inflation, some armies proclaimed their own commanders emperor and then marched on Rome, trying to seize power.
Feuding legions proclaimed 30 different emperors in a period of just 23 years. Civil wars broke out frequently over who was truly ruling the empire. Meanwhile, Rome's impressive record in battle began to slip. Apparently, the great legions had lost their edge. The low point came in 260. Emperor Valerian has spent his entire career fighting the Persians to the east with limited success. With his troops ravaged by war and disease, he was forced to do something no emperor had ever done: negotiate. But when Valerian arrived in modern-day Iraq to talk peace, he was taken prisoner. The emperor of the Roman Empire was made to kneel on the ground before his conquerors, so the Persian king Shapur could step on his neck. It was a devastating blow to Roman pride. It was not quite the end for Rome, but it was the beginning of the end. The Roman legions were no longer the invincible fighting machine that once conquered the world. The frontiers of the empire were no longer impenetrable, and Rome could no longer be said to rule the world. Less than a century after the first barbarians crossed into the empire, one Roman recognized this momentous time for what it was.
Our history now plunges from a kingdom of gold to one of iron and rust.